Welcome to RE/MAX of Boulder Video Podcast. Today we have our regular monthly guest, DB Wilson, who's the managing broker here at RE/MAX of Boulder. DB has the pleasure of managing over 100 agents here, so it's a great opportunity for him to give us some insight on what's happening in the market. DB is also quite a student of the statistics in our area. So DB, welcome and thanks for being here again today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk about how the first quarter of 2016 has done compared to the first quarter of 2015, both in the single family and attached dwelling markets. So DB, why don't we start off with, again, defining the 10 vital statistics that you monitor and then dive into single family first.
You bet. So we do look at 10 different areas to give you a real overall picture of what's happening in the marketplace. We look at the current inventory, the number of homes listed for sale. We look at median price, average price, sales price to list price, days on market, in other words, how long it takes for a property once it comes on the market to close. We look at the number of sales in any year, the number of expires, those properties that actually are not selling. Then we look at months of inventory, and that takes into account if no new listings came on, how long would it take for the market to absorb all those listings. Look at the percentage under contract, and then finally the interest rate for a 30-year mortgage.
Perfect. All right, let's dive into it.
Okay. So with all that in mind, we started the year extremely low in inventory, and that has actually affected the number of sales that we've seen in the first quarter. So it's never been lower. There were only 450 listings approximately at the start of the year, but that has jumped up to 640, so about a 40% increase in the number of homes currently on the market. And that is about equal, just a little bit over where we were a year ago with 634 listings at this time. Now what's interesting is that 53% of those 640 listings are under contract. So the market is still very active. The median sales price has jumped up to $495,000 as of the end of March, and that compares with $457,000 a year ago. The other thing that's really interesting about that is that we finished 2015 at a median price of $465,000. So just in the last 3 months, that median price has gone up by $30,000.
Wow.
And it was only $48,000 for the entire year. So you can see that it's kind of gaining some momentum.
Right.
Average price, we're now, for the first time since I've been tracking it, is over $600,000. That's 600.
This is all of Boulder County.
And that's all of Boulder County, all single family. So that's at $606,000 compared with a year ago of $557,000. And again, that's about $48,000 jump from a year ago, of which $31,000 has been year to date. So we're kind of seeing an increase in momentum. The other thing that's important to look at is the sales price to list price ratio. Currently, a seller can expect a 99.6% sales price to list price. Very strong. Normally you'd be talking 96, 97%, but again, this kind of shows the strength of the market. Days on market, again, from list date to the actual closing date, we're down to 69 days. That's from 83 a year ago. The number of sales year to date is down 12.2%.
Interesting.
And again, I believe that is because we started the year with so few properties on the market. But a year ago at this time we had 624 sales, and this year we've had 548. So
we're seeing a little bit of the seasonal increase in the inventory, but nothing super as far as making it significant.
Correct. Even that 640, that 634 last year was the all-time low for the end of March. And so I've been tracking that since 2000. And so in those 16 years, we've never come close to that low. So while there's a little bit of optimism that we've got more than we had at the end of the year, it's still very low. The other important point, I believe, for viewing the strength of the market is that we've only had 7 homes that did not sell at all. In other words, they expired without selling. That compares with 20 a year ago. So again, that points to the strength. We have 3.5 months worth of inventory. When we look at inventory, 5 to 7 months is what we consider a stable market. Doesn't necessarily favor a buyer or a seller. When it's down in the 3.5 month range, it's definitely favoring a seller. Like I mentioned before, 53% of the homes are under contract, so 53% of those 640 are under contract. And interest rates are as low as ever could be, 3.69% according to Freddie Mac as of the end of March.
Almost free money.
To us, when we
16%.
16, 18%, yeah, it's very favorable.
Okay.
And so that will really allow a buyer's money to go further.
Okay, ready to talk about attached dwellings?
You bet.
Okay.
We look at those same 10 categories for attached dwelling. Attached dwelling, there's very little on the market. A year ago at this time, we had 163 properties on the market. This year we have 112.
Wow.
Now that is up from 65 at the end of the year, but it is still, that's 30% fewer homes, condos and townhomes on the market than a year ago. And consequently, the median price has jumped 27% in the last year and is currently at $340,250 for Boulder County. And the average is up to $370,211. That's about a 10% increase over a year ago. So what we are seeing is there are some new properties coming on the market, specifically in Lafayette, and that is pushing up that median price because they're at a higher price point. What's real interesting about sales price to list price, again showing the strength of the market for a seller, they're actually 102.2% sales price to list price. So sellers are actually...
And again, that's in all the county, right?
The entire county.
And
yes.
so there's some areas that it's probably well above that 100%.
Yes. Lafayette, again, is also high on that with a little over 104% sales price to list price. There's only been 192 sales, of which I think 112 of those sales were in the city limits of Boulder. But 192 sales versus 258 a year ago, so down about 25%. And that, again, is just reflective of lack of inventory. It's not that we don't have lack of buyers. So at this point, one listing did expire compared with 7 of a year ago. That happened to be priced at $1.6 million, so a very high-end condominium. And currently 74% of our 112 listings are under contract.
Amazing.
Yeah. So right now the inventory is 1.7 months. Again, very, very small number of listings.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I know in this session I've said wow and amazing so much because I think back to DB, we've been through so many markets, ups and downs, when there's just been so much inventory. You could go out and look at 20 houses and pick one to buy. Now you might go out and look at 20, but you do them one day at a time. It may take you 10 weeks to look at 20 properties at this pace.
Yeah, I am encouraged with the number of listings that we now have for single family. I mean, it's going in the right direction, and it's been a fairly recent phenomenon. I continue to be quite concerned about the attached dwelling, that there's just not enough properties, which I think is also somewhat influenced by the construction defect law, is that builders just aren't willing to build in that arena right now, for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of small subdivisions coming on.
Right. DB, any other conclusions about the market?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Interest rates won't stay here forever, though, so it's a great time to buy.
Thank you, DB, for being here and filling us in on what's going on out there.
You bet.
RE/MAX Boulder Video Podcast, signing off.